Okay, we're holding on Tzadik Dalid on the days. We're doing Machlok. We had a Machlokus between Rav and Shmuel regarding an Achsadra Ledika. It was in 4 open walls. Whether you say Pi Tikra Yored the Sosim, Rav says you do, and therefore you can carry throughout the Achsadra. Shmuel says you do not say Pi Tikra Yored the Sosim because it's open on 4 sides. We concluded that Shmuel does hold the Pi Tikra. He just doesn't hold the Pi Tikra in a scenario where you have all 4 walls coming down. But if it's less than 4, he would say Pi Tikra Yored the Sosim. This edge of the ceiling comes down. Now, that Achsadra, what happens? Is there a difference in the size? Let's say the walls are less than 10 or less. We know more than 10 is a Pirza, less than 10 is a Pesach. Why would Shmuel say regarding 10 and not 10? In other words, so now let's qualify that Achsadra, exactly the dimensions of it, and as a nafkamina in the machlokes between Rav and Shmuel. So we're up to Tzadik Dalid on the days. We have 4 lines in the bottom. Be'esa kuli amalei pligi. If it's 10 amis or less, there's no machlokes. In other words, Shmuel would go ahead. I'm frozen. Why am I frozen? I never had a problem. Okay, I'm back. I'm not back.
It's on and off.
You're fine on our side. It sounds fine.
No, it's on and off.
That's very funny. Okay. Anyway, so if it's 10, there's no machlokes. In other words, Shmuel would admit that you say Pi Tikra if it's 10, because 10 is not a Pirza, it's a Pesach. Ki pligi, when's the machlokes? Be yesem yesa. If it's more than 10. If it's more than 10, then it's a machlokes. In other words, that's where Rav and Shmuel argue. The army, Rav would admit by more than 10, guys, Rav would admit by more than 10 that you don't say Pi Tikra. Keep when's the machlokes? Machlokes is be'eser. Machlokes is exactly by 10. That's what the machlokes. Okay, so we have machlokes. We have machlokes when the machlokes is, right? We have machlokes when the machlokes is. Now, for Hodam Rav Yehuda, okay, let's see. Let's get the screen over here. You have a churva, it's open to Rosh Hashanah, so you can't carry here, it's Rosh Hashanah. However, you have a board that is 4 tefachim wide. So now we'll reflect it down here. If you say Pi Tikra, meaning I'm going to make this one go down, and Pi Tikra, I'll make this one go down, and again, 4 tefachim is the Makam Chashav, Pesach Hashivas, and you carry over here. If you say Pi Tikra, you could. If you don't say Pi Tikra, you can't. So now the Gemara wants to qualify who would this machlokas be? How would this fit into the machlokas that we just saw between Rav and Shmuel? Hodam Rav Yehuda, Amid Aleph. Koira Dalid, a Koira that's 4 tefachim wide. Mata bechurva, it would permit you to carry under it in the churva. Rav Nachman Amar Rabba Baravua, Koira Dalid, Mata b'mayim. And the koira of Dalid will be matter in water. Now, money, who would this be according to? In other words, the only way this works, guys, is through the halacha of Pi Tikra. So watch. Lishna da'amrit be'esolei pligi. Everyone says that by Esther there's no machlokes, that even Shmuel admits if it's 10 amis long or less, you will say Pi Tikra be'eser v'divrei hakol. So we'll say this board is 10 or less. Everyone would hold Pi Tikra, even Shmuel, and therefore Divrei HaKol, it comes out according to everyone. Lahach Lishna, to the second Lashon, the Amit Esa Pligi, that Machlokes is by 10, then it would only come out according to Rav, because Shmuel would say, you don't say Pi Tikra. Kirav, right? It would come out according to Rav. So now, this is the Sugya Pi Tikra Yer B'Saisim. Let's apply it to another halacha. You have over here an Achsadra, and it's got simim over here, sideboards. They're each a tefach wide. It's kasha. It's kosher to sukkah. Now you're going to say pitikra yori v'soisin. So now, Lema Abaye v'Rava beplukted the Rabbi Shmuel comifically. Abaye v'Rava who argued regarding the kashrus of this sukkah are arguing in what in Rav Idmar. Sicha hagabi achsadra. If you put schach on top of an achsadra, sheyesh like p'tsimim that has side posts. Kshera, it's kasha. Everyone says it's kasha. Ein la p'tsimim. Let's say it does not have p'tsimim over here. Right? If it doesn't have p'tsimim, so now you don't have side posts. The only way to machshir this guys is to create a wall. So watch, one wall, two. I guess I don't know if this is a wall. For some reason, you have to say pitikra over here. Abaye Amar Kshera, because we say pitikra. The Rava Amar Psula, and Rava says it's puzzle because you don't say pitikra. No, you don't say pitikra. Abaye Amar Kshera Amar pitikra yer v'seisim. Abaye says pitikra, it goes down, it closes it off. The Rava Amar Psula, because lo Amar pitikra yer v'seisim. So let's say lema Abaye kerav. Abaye who holds you do say pitikra holds like Rav. For Rava kishmuel. And Rav who says that you don't say pitikra, you holds like Shmuel. So I'll leave it to Shmuel Kulyam Pli. In other words, every guy, this Gemara does this often. The last thing an Amoira wants to do is to get involved in Machloikis Tanoim. So right now, apparently we have Rava like Rav, that you know, a Rava like Shmuel, that you don't say pitikra, and a Abaye like Rav that you do say pitikra. So the best thing to do is try to find a difference between the case of sukkah and the case of achsadra, and then we'd be able to go ahead and then go ahead and perhaps find where they may both agree, and they don't have to. You're not subject to say it's machlokes according to both of them. So watch. I'll leave it to Shmuel Kolyam Le Pligi. Guys, look at Rashi. I'll leave it to Shmuel Kolyam Le Pligi. Kloimar. Vadai Kiddush Armit, you're correct. In other words, according to Shmuel, you're correct. That what? Abaye holds like Rav, V'loike Shmuel. So in other words, that Shmuel Zicha cannot come out according to Abaye. Because Abaye holds Pitikra and Shmuel holds you don't. The Moed Abaye, the Shmuel Psula. Abaye has to be Moeded, the Shmuel is puzzle. Abaye against his will. Again, Abaye wants to come out of both according to Rav and Shmuel, but against its will, he has to admit he has no choice. Against his will, he has to admit that there's no choice, that he can't hold like Shmuel. The kivin the achsadra, the hanach peyois tikrul achsadra nasu, where the edges were made for the achsadra. In other words, it was made for the achsadra. But afilu hachi asa b'tiltul Shabbos, kol shekein le'mahani linyan sukkah, the loyla sukkah avidi. When I don't know why I'm so. I never all the time I'm giving, I never froze. It's the first time I'm freezing. I don't know. It must be very, very. I wonder. It's a weak signal. It's a weak signal. Interesting. Okay. There's more of a svara to say pitikra by the achsadra than by the sukkah. Why? Because the ceiling was made for the purpose of. The ceiling was made for the purpose of the achsadra. The ceiling was not made for the purpose of a sukkah. So if Shmuel holds that you don't say pitikra by the achsadra, certainly holds you don't say pitikra by the sukkah. So Abaye who permits the sukkah cannot possibly hold like Shmuel. Guys, you got it? Good. However, it's possible that Rava who holds you don't say pitikra like Shmuel could possibly hold like Rav. Oh, why? Says the Gemara, and you can understand it beautifully now. Lema Abaye, says the Gemara. Keep legal Rav. Abaye karav. For Rav, akalakam Rav Hasam ela dahani mechitzas dachsadra vidi. You know why Rav holds you say pitikra by the achsadra? Because the ceiling was made for the achsadra. Aval hacha by thy sukkah. The Hani Mechitza is lav the Sukkah Vidi, Rav would agree, like me, you don't say Pitikra. So in other words, it's beautiful. This is in logic, it makes sense. We want to say that Abaye and Rav are on one side, and Shmuel and Rav are on the other side. So we said you're right. Abaya and Abaya, he's out. Abaya's out. But now you have Rava. So Rava, Ken Zayin Rava holds like Shmuel for sure because he says you don't say Pitikra. And even Rav, who says you do say Pitikra, that's only by the Achsadra where the ceiling was made for that purpose. On the other hand, by the Sukkah where it wasn't made for the purpose of a Sukkah, even Rav would be Moda, you don't say Pitikra. So now I, Rava, can come out according to Shmuel and according to Rav, which is exactly what you want to do. You don't want to be nicholas into a machlokes. Now, usually, it's more problematic because usually it's the machlokes Tanoim. Here it's the machlokes of the earliest Achronim, Rav and Shmuel. It's no big deal. Abaya can argue on Rav. Abaya can argue on Shmuel. He could. And that's not a problem. But I guess the Gemara for purposes of Shalom in Klal Yisrael, we should come out. So usually, if it's machlokes Tanoim, it's more problematic for the Amoira. In this case, it's not so problematic because we're only dealing with Amoraim. Okay. We said what happens if the wall falls in on Shabbos, if the Koira falls in on from the beam on Shabbos. Rabbi Yehuda said, since it was mutter for that Shabbos, kivin shehutra hutra. Rabbi Yossi said something that went like this: if it was mutter for that Shabbos, it's mutter l'asur lavoi. But if it's asur l'asur lavoi, it's asur on Shabbos. And what did he mean when he said that? So Rabbi Yossi in mutarim. Now, iboilu Rabbi Yossi lesor or lahata. Rabbi Yossi, his statement is coming to mato or coming to asur. Some Rav Sheshes lo asur, it's coming to asur. The Chinam Rabbi Yochanan lo asur. Rabbi Yossi is coming to say, if your mechitza falls in, you lose your erev. If your koira falls in, you can't carry in the mavoi. And we don't say kima shehutra hutra. We don't say that. Just like it's us to the next Shabbos, so too it's also for that Shabbos. And therefore it's not permitted on that Shabbos. That for that Shabbos it is permitted, just not for the next. Does Shmuel say that Allah is like Rabbi Yehuda? Now, throughout the Masechta, guys, Rabbi Yehuda's been Mekel. From the beginning of the Masechta to the end of the Masechta, he's Mekel. He was Mekel by the Koira above 20. He was Mekel by being the two sides of the Rishus Harabim. He was Mekel throughout the Masechta. You see clearly, Rabbi Yehuda was Mekel throughout the Masechta. So now, Shmuel is saying Allah is like Rabbi Yehuda. He has another kula, correct? If it falls, the beam falls in, it's okay. If your mechitza falls in, it's still a good area. In other words, tremendous etta. Throughout the Masechta, he's being mata, right? And now we're saying Shmuel holds like Rabbi Yehuda. Okay? The Gemara will question that fact. Umi Yom Shmuel Hachi, does Shmuel really say that Allah is like Rabbi Yehuda? But Tanam, we learned in the Mishnah, 2 times in this Masechta previously. Rabbi Yehuda, Amurim, when could you go ahead and make an Eirit, Amurim, that why I don't remember it all, that you need to go ahead and tell the person that's Be'er Tchumim. In other words, if you're making an error for somebody, I go ahead, I say, you know what? I'm here. I am. I'm on Ocean Parkway, and I got to get to the end of Borough Park. So I want to extend my tchum. And you know what I decided? Yehuda Horowitz also wants to do that. I come back, Banish Moshes, I put his tchum over there, and Yehuda Horowitz tells me, he goes, are you kidding me, Rabbi Stern? I had to go to Knossi. I need a tchum in the other direction. So of course I can't make it for him. Because again, mechayev him. He had a kiddush at the last surviving Jew in Knossi, and he had to go there, and now I basically messed him up. So therefore, I have to moidia him before I make the Erev. If we live together in a cul-de-sac, right? And he forgot to make the Erev, and I mizaka him, so therefore, I'm going to be the Murim that you have to let him know that's Be'er Tchumim. Whether he knows about it or not knows about it, so why? We saw this in the Masechta. It's a schus. I can go ahead and take care of him. Again, just hit back beer in there because we're building up to a kasha. And therefore I can't make the Erev Tchumen because that would be a chay for him. Rabbi Yehuda Mishmuel, halacha Rabbi Yehuda. And again, so he says halacha like Rabbi Yehuda. So right now everything's good. What's the kasha? Not hang in the Harry. Ela kol makom sheshana Rabbi Yehuda be'erevin halacha k'maisai. Any place we learn Rabbi Yehuda be'erevin, the halacha is like him. The only Rav Chana Bagdad says Rav Chana from Baghdad, Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, afilu b'mavish nidl karasai or l'chayav. Is the halacha even like Shmuel, like Rabbi Yehuda, regarding if what it lost the mavoi lost its beam or it's lost its lechi? V'amalei be'erevin amarti l'cha. I said the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda by erevin, v'loy b'mechitzais, but I didn't say it by mechitzais. And the din of kaira and the din of lechi is the din of mechitzais. So we have a contradiction. You just told me in this Mishnah that said bavoi that loses its kaira or its lechi. Says Shmuel, the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. Then we conversely say, no, only by erevin, but a mechitz is not. Steer in Shmuel. And for the Gemara, Amar Rabbanan l'didim fashlim in the Shmuel, kam shnifzer l'karmelis. When it's nifzer l'karmelis, then the halacha Shmuel says the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, because even if you come to carry, you're only carrying in a karmelis with the Rabbanon. Kan, when does he say the halacha is not like Rabbi Yehuda? It's nifzer rishus harabim. It's going right into a rishus harabim. So he holds like. So when he said that he holds like the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, that's where it was nifritz. The chutzah was nifritz to a karmelis. And however, if it's nifritz to a rishus harabim, where you have a problem with itzah being the raisa, then the halacha is not like that. Says the Mishnah. Okay, we have a few cases over here. Let's see some old pictures. Some old friends, guys, huh? Steve, you like that? I didn't have to turn back. Okay, let's see the Mishnah, guys. Someone builds an aliyah on top of two houses. Picture 58, guys. You built an aliyah on top of two houses. Question, can you carry underneath the houses? Yeah? How would it work? You see the aleph? What's that called? It's the old P. Tikra Yerusayim trick, correct? There you go. The Chin Gesharim Amfulashim. Then you have picture 59, a bridge that is wide is open, like a little, but over here. You're gonna have to come onto the old P. Tikra over here, correct? The Tatum Tachtehem, you can carry underneath them the Shabbos. Divra Rabbi Yehuda. The Chacham says no, you can't. The other Rabbi Yehuda, Ma'arvin Lamavi Mafulish v'Chacham Moisrim. A Mavi Mafulish, you can go ahead right and make an Erev, and the Chacham say you can't. By a Mavi Mafulish, which is open on two sides, and he said you could go ahead and make a, right? It has two mechitzis. Here's a Mavi Mafulish, guys. One over here, going straight through. Actually, it's not a Mavi Mafulish, it's just a Rabbin. But a Mavi, you got the idea. It's the same idea. Because why? Because you got two walls. The Yehudas of the opinion, fellas, that two walls make something deraisa. Two walls work. Now, Amar Rava, loitei mahaynu tayv Rabbi Yehuda mishum de kasava beis mechisus deraisa. Says Rashi, halacha l'moshe misinai, going all the way back. Kedamin and Perakama, shiurin, chatzitzin, umechitzos, halacha l'moshe misinai. Shiurim and chatzitzos and mechitzos are all halacha l'moshe misinai. You have on the mavoi, you have mechitzas on both sides. So you want to say the Mishnah that says, guys, that these cases over here, the reason why these would work because you have two walls over here and two walls over here and two walls over here, has nothing to do with the two walls. It has everything to do with the fact that you say P tikra over here, and over here. So it's a statement. Don't think it's because of two walls. The halacha Moshe Messina says that you have two walls, you're cool. That's not the reason. The reason that Yehuda holds is because it's a scenario of P tikra yored decisive. Elam Mishum Ksav Pitikra Yer B'Saisim. Esevei Abaya is going to ask a question. Yes, well, Kenam Rabbi Yehuda, and for the final last time in this Masechta, let's look at this picture. A guy's got two houses on two sides of the Rosh Hashanah. He has house over here and house over there. He can either put a lucky over here, a lucky over here, or put over here a kaira over here, a kaira over here, and you can carry in between. That's the last time we're seeing it. We've seen it. It's one of the pictures. It's right up there with the Chatzah Gedolah, Chatzah Katana, right? Right up there. It's an old friend. By now, it should be an old friend. So
And the hobo sitting on the low wall.
The hobo on the wall, yes. That is definitely definitely the hobo
And
on the wall.
The two camels.
Now we got the cow being pushed over to look forward to.
Picture 69. Don't forget
Picture 69. Picture 99. Listen.
69 is when the Mets won.
I tell you one thing. I wish he was just nifta the mechaber of the sefer, but I would write him a letter and have all you guys sign. Think about how much Torah he made it easy for us in Masechta Eruvin, right? Think about how I was looking over. Let me just pause the record. You should all walk away with the concept of rishuyos. In other words, what's a rishus hayachid? Well, let's see. It's got to be 16, at least 16 amas wide. It's got to be open at both ends. And it's got to be, according to Rashi, 600,000. That's a Rishus Rabbim. What's a Rishus Hayachid? Certainly your private domain, right? Anything that's hukif lidira, but anything that's 10 by 4 is a Rishus. It's just a Yachid. You take a beam, you put it in Rishus Rabbim. It's 10 by 4. You put something on top of it. You can be chayev misa if you do it with Eidim Asra. 10 by 4. People don't think of Rishus Hayachid like that. 10 by 4. What's a Carmelis? Any area that is low hook of Adira, right? Any area that's low hook of Adira. It gets the chumrah of both Rishus HaYachid and Rishus HaRabim. It's a Rishus HaRabim you can't carry 4 hours. In other words, I think I'm going to have to maybe put a list of things together and maybe review it. We'll have a review thing. It's very, very nice. There's so many things to carry with you, that ideas that you'll have throughout Shas, which are nice. Okay, anyway.
Rabbi, make a separate video of that, for real.
Yeah.
And Steve will download it for free.
And we'll call it a thing. It'll be okay.
What are you speaking to him? Don't speak to him. He's still thinking about Clint Eastwood.
George Rogers.
So the Mishnah suggests, fellas, don't think it's because of. In other words, there's two possibilities that Rabbi Yehuda would matter. Either because mechitza is to do the job, or because of pitikra. So the Gemara is saying, don't think it's because it's two. It's because of pitikra. That's the reason Rabbi Yehuda would allow it, because as we saw in the pictures, it closes it down. It comes down and it seals. So now, Amar Avaloi came out with time Rabbi Yehuda mishum tekasava basically it's the Raisa el mishum tekasava pitikra yored b'saisim. Esevei Abaya, yes, well, can Rabbi Yehuda, Mishesh l'shtei batam l'shtei tzidim b'shus Rabbim, oy salech mikan v'lechem mikan, oy kari mikan v'kari mikan, v'noisim nemsa. Amaloi ema avim b'shus Rabbim b'kach. You can't make an error b'shus Rabbim. Now, fellas, I should have said for the last time. Okay, for the last time. Over here, right? In this case over here. The only way this is going to work is with P Tikra, correct? The only way. Excuse me. Over here, if you would go ahead, guys, look. Let's say you put a lechi over here and a lechi over here. Is there P Tikra? Guys, Rabbi Yehuda says, look, you're putting a lechi here and a lechi here. Good? And he says you can carry in between. Good? Yes? Al Karchach, you have to say, the reason you can carry over there is because you have what? 2 mechitzas. There is no pitikra. So, Frank is asking a gewaldige kasha. Abaye asks, you're telling me the whole reason for our Mishnah is pitikra and not mechitzas? 1 second. I just showed you a case where there is no P tikra. So it must be mechos and mechitzos. Good? Yes? You again, the P tikra comes from top. Over here, there's no P tikra. There's only a lechi, there's no kaira. It's either a lechi or a kaira. Take away the base at the top. You have nothing on top. So nothing's coming down. So the whole reason must be because there's two mechitzas. So what are you telling me that the whole reason Rabbi Yehuda holds is only because of P tikra? You see, it's not a true statement. I just showed you a scenario without P tikra, and it works because it's two mechitzas. And for the Gemara in, you're right. But I didn't mean that Rabbi Yehuda does not hold the two mechitzas. All I meant to say is from our Mishnah, you could not learn that fact. Because in our Mishnah, every case had a scenario of P tikra. What was our Mishnah, guys? What was our Mishnah? Look, one case, two case. Good? These are cases of P tikra. These are cases of P tikra. So from this, you can't be mashma that it's a two mechitza dikadin. From here, picture 60, you could, because there is no P tikra. There's only the lechis. So when I said it, I didn't mean to preclude that it's not true. I just said that fact can't be derived from our Mishnah. That's all. But in Achinami could be. In Amalei Mahi, in from there, from Rishus Harabim, you could derive that fact that it's a din of mechitzos. Mehol lekel mashma mina, but from here not. Amravashi Masisinami Deka. Our Mishnah is also miduyik. Our Mishnah is also meduyik that Rabbi Yehuda holds, guys, two mechitzas. Our Mishnah is also meduyik. Rabbi Yehuda holds two mechitzas. Now there's gersa problems over here. Let's take it straight away. Miditani va'oid. Now, look back at the Mishnah. Case 1. Gesharim 2. Right? Rabbi Yehuda Cham Weisrin. Va'oidam Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says a new din. Now, the case of Aliyah is the case of Pitikra. The case of Gesharim of bridges is Pitikra. Va'oidam Rabbi Yehuda ma'arvim l'mavayim fulashim v'chacham Weisrin. Now, why va'oid? What does va'oid mean? Va'oid means an additional din. If you're going to tell me it's Pitikra, yes, what's the va'oid? What's the va'oid? In other words, if it was all Pitikra, he should have just said it all together in one sentence. Pitikra, so you have this, this, and this. So it must be that the last case va'oid is not because of Pitikra. It must be because shtei mechitzos. So here's the way you look at the Mishnah, guys. Watch. If someone builds an aliyah on top of two houses, he builds a bridge that's open, because of Pitikra. The Chacham Maestrim, they say, no, you don't say Pitikra in that case. For Oidam Rabbi Yehuda, another scenario, Ma'arvin L'mavim Foolish Chacham Maestrim, make an Erev by a Mavim Foolish Ma'arvin using the din of Shtei Mechitzos. So you see, it's doing from a Mishnah that he holds a Shtei Mechitzos. That's the way to go shot. Let's see it inside. For Oidam Rabbi Yehuda, Ma'arvin Mavim Foolish Chacham Maestrim. Iyan B'Shleim Mishum de Kasava, Pitikra Yerev Saisim in the first case, Hainu Tanav Oid in the second case is speaking about to Mechitzos. If the first case is because of Shtei Mechitzos, what's the void? Shmamina, that the Rashi learns the latter case is speaking about what? Of Shtei Mechitzos. So again, from a Mishnah also, we can medayik that then. For all intents and purposes, guys, you've just finished Masechta Eruvin. The next parak is really a dinim in Shabbos. Look at the first Tosfos. I might see tefillin, first Tosfos. Hach pirka b'mesechta. Stop clapping. Hach pirka b'mesechta Shabbos havilei lemisni. We should have learned this parak in Masechta Shabbos. Gabi hoitzos. So why is it over here? Should the Tani Sefer Rabbi Yehuda and Nasan Adam Chaver v'Chaver l'Chaveroi v'afilu chutz l'tchum. So since we mentioned the word chutz l'tchum, we're going to go ahead and bring in this Masechta. So for one little thing, we bring it in. But the bottom line is it's Avrami Weinrib, start smoking those briskets, Avrami.
I'm getting hungry. Hungry.
We need a real CM this
We're
time.
all getting hungry. We're still hungry. We haven't had a CM since Brachas.
Didn't we mention Eruvin in Shabbos?
What?
It's a stupid
Yeah,
question.
again, Eruvin is a Shabbos din, but there's so many unique din of the Eruvin. He gave it its own Masechta. Steve, think about it. If you would have put Eruvin and Masechta together, no one in the world would finish Daf Yomi. It would be over. Can you imagine a Masechta 250 blot? You have mamish 250 blot.
Now with YouTube, everybody's going to finish.
I want to finish. Anyway, says the Gemara. Hamaitzi tefillin. If you're walking along, you're in a field, you find tefillin. It's in a state of bizayin. You have a state of bizayin. It's tefillin. Machnisin zug zug. You wear it in. You wear one pair on your head and one pair on your arm. Rabbi Gamliel Loimer. Now it's Shabbos. You're wearing it. Rabbi Gamliel Shnayim Shnayim. You can even wear two pairs. Two pairs. Two on your head and two on your arm. If they're old, meaning Rashi learns, if you can tell that they wore tefillin. It seems they used to wear kameyas, and the kameyas didn't have kedusha. You don't know for sure, and there's no bizoyin for leaving them there, and they look like tefillin. So you had to have a siman that it was what it was tefillin. So the Yishanos means you're able to tell from the ritzuyos. The ritzuyos would have the dalet in or the yud in it. You know, you'd have the ois that we do in the knot. So since you'll be able to recognize it's tefillin, in that scenario you can bring it in. But not having that of the chadashais, where you don't have the siman of the knot, then potter, you don't have to bring them back, because it could be it's a kameya, some type of cameo that has no kedusha. Matzon tzvasim, if you find a bunch of them together, like krichas or tied together, and there's too much to wear, too much to bring in, machshech aleihem umevian, and you'll bring them after Shabbos. You wait there till it's dark, and you wait till after Shabbos. Now, what about uvesakana? It's sakana to wait there because of the shmad. You cover it up and you leave. You go do the old gauntlet. You pass it down, which seems to be a bit odd, right? If you're telling me that if Shimon's going on the case of sakana and you want to be clandestine, so why would you announce to the world what you're doing? So obviously, Rav Shimon must be going on something else. Not in the case of sakana. The Gemara will discuss this in Be'ez Hashem in the future. The Chaim Beno, so too if you have a baby that's born, a baby that's born in the field, it's like by my son Moshe Yehuda's bris. Remember we were passing him around? By Moshe's bris 24 years ago, we had what's called the chekes. The whole daf got to pass him around. And now I wonder why he's okay. Anyway, so it all began then. So you pass him in from the field. You pass him at filu meya. Even you can give a barrel. Even if the barrel's coming from chutz tchum. Guys, we're going to get into the machlokes. Remember, we had whether kalim of hefker are kind of machmir shvisa or not. If they're kind of the place of the baal or the self, we'll see that Be'ez Hashem. So Amaloi, they told him like the haliksu yosem regla malecha. It can't get more than its owner. So it does. We'll see Be'ez Hashem machlokes. Okay, let's get to the first case. Zug, right? Zug echad in feiloi. You find it according to the Tanakama. You can only bring back one, right? Tanakama said you can only go ahead and bring one, not two. Why is that? The like Reb Meir. This stam is not like Reb Meir. We're going to find a place where Reb Meir lets you bring in more. In Shabbos, there's a case where there's a deleka in a house. It's burning in the house. You're able to wear as much clothing as you can into the chutzner. So he wanted sushtel. Reb Meir, who would let you bring all the clothing that you want, you can wear all your clothing into the chutzner, right? Would apparently let you wear tefillin as well. So the one that limits tefillin to one would also not agree with Reb Meir. So therefore, this Stam Mishnah would not be like that. The Reb Meir ha'ama loibish kol ma sheyuchal lovish. In case of fire, wear whatever you can. V'oitiv kol ma sheyuchal atoif, and then wrap yourself in whatever you can wrap yourself. Ditnan ulesham moitzi kol mili tashmishay. You bring there all your kli tashmishay. V'loibish kol ma sheyuchal lovish, and wear whatever you can. In case of fire, this is what you do. Now, how do you know by his stam and my Reb Meir? How do you know that stam Mishnah there is Reb Meir in Shabbos? The Tani Allah loivish u'moitzi a poishav loivish u'moitzi a poishav afil kol yom kula. The Reb Meir. So that's how you know. So therefore, in other words, how do you know that Stam Mishnah is Rameya? Because we have a brisa that said it. So now, very good. So now you got the kasha. Well, the statement really, our Mishnah that limits it to one would not be Rameya. Amarava, no, I feel to him Rameya. I can make a distinction by wearing tefillin and wearing clothing. What's the distinction? Chasam derech mabushay, right? Kechoil. There, when you wear it, you're wearing it the way you wear it during the week. Shavir Rabbanon. V'hacha derech mabushay kechol shavir Rabbanon. There, you're wearing it the way you during the week, and here you wear it during the week. Chasam over there by Shabbos. Dibechol kama deboy lovish. Le'inat solanami shari le Rabbanon. People do wear layers of clothing during the week. I know a person who only in June does he take off his long johns because he's cold. He used to have a little insulation. He lost the insulation, and now he's cold. So what does he do? He has to wear. So people wear layers. So therefore, to go ahead on Shabbos and do it, the Chachamim permitted you to do what you do during the week. People during the week do not wear multiple pairs of tefillin, and therefore they limited it to one pair. Hacha by tefillin, the bechol nami zugechad in tefilloi, le'inat solanami zugechad in tefilloi. And this Tana Rashi points out holds that Shabbos is man tefillin. So machlokes where the Shabbos is man tefillin. Now we'll get into the machlokes. Shabbos is a nice, tefillin is a nice, and you don't want to over ice, right? So therefore, whether it's not, this Mandel holds it is. Okay, says the Gemara now. For Rabbi Gamliel, Shnayim, you can wear two. My Kasava, what does Rabbi Gamliel hold? He Kasava, Shabbos man tefillin who, if he'll Shabbos is man tefillin, zugechad in tefillah, you'd be having Baal Taisef, guys. If it's man tefillin, and you, in other words, you become a mitzvah by wearing it, by wearing two pairs, you'll be over on Baal Taisef. The Kasava Shabbos lavs man tefillin who, Mishum Hatzala, derech malbush shari le Rabbanan, and therefore, I feel it feinami. You should even be able to mean more than two. So, Memanav Shach, where does two come from? If it's the Zman Mitzvah, you should be limited to one. If it's not the Zman Mitzvah, you should be able to increase more than two. And if the Gemara learns Shabbos la Zman Tefillin, it's not Zman Tefillin. So why are you limited to two? Derech Malbush, right? The way normally a person wears, the Makam Tefillin. In other words, so Yihachi zug echad nami in tefilloi. Pashtus, in other words, if it's the normal way you wear, people wear one pair of tefillin, not two. Some Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak makam yesh beroish. There's a place on your head. Leniach ba shtei tefillin, to leave two tefillin. Place for two. Hanicha the roish. That's very good. The roish. The yad mayekel lemeimar. What about the hand? It says Kid Rav Huna. Dam Rav Huna pam shadam bomen asada. You're coming from the field. He's carrying something on his head. When he takes his tefillin roish off, the koishrim b'sroi, and he puts on his arm. So you see that sometimes you put two pairs on your arm. Saying, but roi miyamar. That's only not because there's a place for it, not because it's roi lekach. It's just that it's a bezoyin if you're going to carry something in your head and have your tefillin on your head. So it's like, instead of putting it in your pocket, you put it on your arm. But not that's a place to put it. Not that it's derech levush. So, Ella kidam Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak makam yesh beroish. There's a place on your head. Sharoi leniach ba shtei tefillin. Hachanami makam yesh biyad. Sharoi leniach ba shtei tefillin. There's a place on your head for two, and there's a place on your arm for two. So I'm going to tell you guys something peladik. You all know you do a dik of the machlokes between Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam in tefillin. Now, Rashi, the machlokes between them is only the order of the parshios. There's no significant difference. It's the order of the parshios and also the placement of where you put the cow's hair that extends out of the shel roish. That's the machlokes between Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam. How long has this machlokes been going on? Rashi didn't create it, and Rabbeinu Tam didn't create it. Mechaber brings down in Shulchan Aruch that since we don't know, you should do both. Meaning, when you make a bracha, the Mechaber says, make a bracha on both, and have in mind the real one should be the real one. It's mashma from the mechaber clearly that you're wearing two at the same time. So when it says over here mokken that you have on your head, right, for Rosh, it's not pshat one and there's an extra spot just you can fit. No, you can be yotzei the mitzvah with two. There's a place on your head to be yotzei the mitzvah with two. Says the Ari, it's an unbelievable thing. The Ari brings from the time of the Goinim, before the Rishonim, before Rashi, before Rabbeinu Tam, they used to wear two pairs of tefillin. Everyone used to wear two pairs of tefillin, Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam. They used to wear two pairs of tefillin, Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam. So why don't we do that anymore? Because only a real chassid does that. And we don't have real chassidim anymore. So if you don't have real chassidim, why does anyone put on Rabbeinu Tam, right? The answer is because they're not wearing it at the same time. The answer is they're not wearing it at the same time. So it's fascinating. When the Gemara goes here, it says this mokken for two, it means they mamish, not one and an additional carry. It's yotzei the mitzvah. It's mamish the mitzvah. Mamish the mitzvah. It's unbelievable. So that's the pshat in the Gemara over here.
There's a Sephardi guy in the white shul that wears two at the same time. Tiny little.
Yeah.
One of my neighbors also does it. He wears two at the same time.
Yeah, again, that's definitely the Messiah. That's
And then
definitely the Messiah.
he switches for another two for Ravid and Shemushi Rabbah. He puts on total of 4.
Okay, Gemara just says one more thing. Tanavei Menashe, zu kiburis. This is the kiburis. The kiburis is the where you put it's your bicep, right? Here's the kiburis. He even tells you exactly where to put on your tefillin. I thought Halloween was over, right? Anyway, there you go. There's the kiburis, right here. The guy's got a good pair, huh? Anyway, Beinei Necha Zu Katkoid Heicha Amid V'Yoyanai Malkim Shemoicha Shel Tinok Roifef. It's the fontanelle, the place where the tinok is roifef, the fontanelle. That's where you wear it. The tzedaikim used to wear it between their eyes, guys. So you taught the folks beinei necha. So beinei necha is mashma between your eyes, right? That's where they used to wear it. Okay, we'll do the same thing, Bez Hashem.